Let's get into the cake talk about drama currently blowing up on TikTok, and I am not gonna sugarcoat it. This story isn't just about cookies and brownies, it is about credibility, stolen work, and the blurred line between inspiration and copying. It starts with two big names in the Australian baking scene, Nagi Maehashi and Brooke Bellamy. A few weeks ago, things started heating up when Nagi Maehashi, the creator of the popular recipe Tin Eats, accused Brooke Bellamy of stealing recipes from her cookbook and adding them for her own book, Bake with Brookie, without giving her any credit. That is a big accusation. Brooke, who owns the popular Brooki Bakehouse, had just dropped her cookbook. It quickly became a bestseller. But then Nagi bought Brooke's book and noticed something odd. Some of the recipes looked way too familiar, like copy-paste level familiar. We're not just talking about similar ingredients. These recipes had the same structure, same measurements, and almost identical instructions. Specifically, the caramel slice and baklava recipes stood out. The wording wasn't just close, it was nearly identical to the versions in Nagi's original cookbook, RecipeTin, which had been out since 2020. That timeline raised eyebrows because it clearly meant Nagi had published hers long before Brooke ever released her book. For Nagi, it wasn't just a coincidence. As a longtime recipe developer, she knew what it meant when another book used your exact words, especially when your work was well known and publicly available. But instead of calling Brooke out publicly at first, Nagi took a more formal route. She filed a copyright lawsuit against Brooke's publisher, Penguin Random House Australia. Her goal seemed clear: address the issue through legal channels rather than online drama. Brooke and the publisher responded by denying the allegations, claiming the similarities were unintentional or not significant. But the internet did not let it slide. Fans and fellow bakers started doing side-by-side comparisons of the recipes and posting their findings online. The screenshots spoke for themselves. People could see it with their own eyes. It wasn't inspiration, it looked like duplication. And just when it seemed like it couldn't get worse, another popular baking figure entered the conversation. Sally McKenney of Sally's Baking Addiction. Sally backed Nagi and claimed Brooke had also copied her best vanilla cake recipe. And again, people brought recipes. They compared the instructions from Sally's online recipe with what was published in Brooke's book, and the similarities were hard to ignore. Word for word, step by step, it looked like another case of copy-paste baking. Now, with two respected bakers accusing Brooke of recipe theft and a lawsuit underway, the situation had officially escalated. What started as quiet suspicion turned into full-blown legal and social media chaos. For weeks, Brooke stayed silent. She turned off her TikTok comments, ignored tags, and did not say a word about the growing accusations. Her followers were left guessing, and critics got louder every day. The silence was deafening until now. She's finally back online and she's speaking out. In her return video, Brooke appeared composed, sitting in what looked like her kitchen, camera steady, tone calm. She started by acknowledging that she'd been away for some time and said she had taken a much-needed break from social media. According to her, the past few weeks had been overwhelming and emotionally exhausting. She explained that she stepped away to reflect, recharge, and deal with everything happening around her. Then she shifted gears and gave a glimpse into her journey. Brooke shared how Brooki Bakehouse came to life, how it was a dream born from her travels around the world, where she explored different cultures and cuisines, and how her mom played a big role in shaping her love for baking. It was her mom, she said, who first taught her how to bake cookies in their family kitchen, a memory she painted with warmth and nostalgia. She talked about the cookbook at the center of the controversy, saying it was a project close to her heart. According to Brooke, the recipes in the book weren't just ideas pulled from nowhere. They were family recipes, notes from friends, and creations she had used and refined over time. She emphasized that while she never claimed to have invented cookies, brownies, or cakes, she believed her versions of them were shaped by her own experience. They've been handed down, written on scraps of paper, passed around between family and friends, she said. These are recipes I've loved, adjusted, and made my own in the bakery setting. She concluded that part of the video by saying that she never intended to mislead anyone and that the book was a personal passion project.
Since opening my bakery 3 years ago and sharing my life online, I've never had such a long break between videos, but I've also never experienced something like I have over the last few weeks. All my life, I've dreamed of owning my own business, and because I love eating sweets and learning how to make them, I opened my bakery a few years ago. Before this, I was traveling the world in search of the best bakeries, and I have been so inspired and influenced by bakeries and bakers the world over. But the biggest inspiration in my life is my mum, because I learned to cook and bake with her in the kitchen growing up, and when I was invited to write a cookbook, I was really excited to share all of the recipes that I've been making since I was small. These recipes have been written down on paper, been handed to me by friends and family, they get passed down through generations, they get scaled up and scaled down in the bakery setting, and while all of these recipes are personal to me, I cannot say that I have invented the cookies, cupcakes, brownies, or cakes in the recipe book. They are all inspired from somewhere and someone before me. I never subscribe to be a part of a narrative that pits two women against each other, especially in the same industry. I think there's room for everyone, especially more women in business. So I guess that's all I'm going to say about it, because food for me has and always will be inherently a shared experience. I love sharing my days in the bakery with people from all over the world who maybe one day dream of owning their own business or bakery, and part of that has been sharing the recipes that have shaped me and my career. So after a few weeks off to pause and reflect, it's time to get back into the bakery, because this is why I came here in the first place, to share my love for baking with you.
However, many were left wondering if passion was enough, especially in a situation involving allegations of direct copying. But here's the thing. Nagi's main issue was credit, not just being inspired, but using someone else's exact words without naming them. And Brooke never directly addressed that. She did not mention Nagi or Sally. She just said she did not want to be part of a narrative that pits two women against each other. That sounds nice and maybe even empowering on the surface, but let's be real for a moment. People aren't mad because they wanted to watch women tear each other down. They were mad because Brooke profited off of receipts that, when examined side by side, looked nearly identical to those that Nagi and Sally had created. This wasn't about industry competition, it was about integrity, it was about someone getting public recognition, brand partnerships, and financial success off work that may not have been fully hers to begin with. And when Brooke finally did address it, her message felt carefully crafted, but not in a good way. It felt safe. Her tone was calm, her background aesthetic, her words chosen not to ruffle feathers. But polished doesn't always mean honest. The video left a lot of people feeling like she tiptoed around the real issue. She acknowledged the inspiration, but skipped over the responsibility. She talked about community and kindness, but not about ownership. Yes, she deserved credit for at least speaking up. Many public figures stay silent and hope things blow over, but was it real accountability? Not really. She basically said, "I was inspired," and left it at that. She did not take the next step, which would have been acknowledging Nagi or Sally by name, or admitting that even if it wasn't intentional, the similarities were too big to ignore. And that is what the lawsuit is truly about. It is not about vague inspiration. It is about word for word copying from published material. Saying you were inspired doesn't erase the fact that two highly respected bakers are accusing you of taking their work without any form of credit or acknowledgement. Still, some people are defending Brooke. They argue that maybe she did not realize how similar the recipes were, or that it's really the publishers who's responsible for vetting content before it goes to print. That is fair, and it is true that the legal case is technically against Penguin Random House, Australia, not Brooke herself. But here's where that gets murky. Even if she's not legally liable, her brand, the Brooki Bakehouse, has been built on the very content in question. Her success is tied to it. Her cookbook brought her fame, features, and viral status. If parts of it weren't original, that impacts trust. So, is this all over? Not even close. The lawsuit is still in motion, but what's already clear is this. The situation has pulled back the curtain on what it means to build a personal brand in the digital age, and how vital transparency and credit are. In a world where visibility equals opportunity, giving proper credit isn't optional. It is necessary. Now let's jump into another cake drama. This one is about a TikToker baker named Cake by Katie, whose videos have recently stirred up a whole different kind of controversy, this time about baking shortcuts and professional expectations. Katie, who has built a loyal following of around 175,000 people on TikTok, is known for her vibrant, clean-cut cake pop content. If you scroll through her page, you'll see dozens of videos where she showcases her decorating skills, bright color palettes, and behind-the-scenes looks into large batch orders. Her style is clean, minimalist, and very satisfying to watch, which is part of why so many people follow her. Recently, she posted a video documenting one of her biggest orders yet: 500 cake pops worth $1,900. She mentioned that the order was from a regular client, someone who places bulk orders with her about 3 times a year. From corporate events to client gifting, this wasn't a one-time deal, it was a repeat business. Katie broke the massive job down into manageable chunks. She decided to tackle 125 cake pops per day across 4 days. Each day, she recorded and narrated her progress, prepping the cake, rolling the pops, dipping them into smooth chocolate, and wrapping them up neatly. Her workspace was spotless, and her energy was calm but focused. She even did her own filming and editing, showing viewers a detailed glimpse into the hustle behind fulfilling such a large-scale order as a solo entrepreneur. As expected, the video blew up. Her followers were impressed, not just with the final product, but with how organized and hardworking she seemed.
Make a $1,900 order with me. This was for one of my regular corporate clients. They work with me about 2 to 3 times per year, and they always need a lot of cake pops. This order in particular was for 500 vanilla cake pops that they were going to pass out for Small Business Week to all the small businesses in town. So what I did, 500 is a lot. I'm just one girl, so I broke this up into 4 different baking days, 125 cake pops per day. I got a head start though, and I froze 250 of them, so I'm going to show you that process first. So I took vanilla cake straight from the oven into the mixer. For 125 cake pops, so a fourth of the order, I needed 4 extra large vanilla cakes to achieve the 125 cake pops. So I'm getting the dough into the cakesicle molds, inserting the stick, popping those out, and all 125 are then going to be ready to dip. Now, I take white chocolate in these large pitchers. I needed 2 large pitchers per 125 cake pops, so that is a lot of chocolate. Here I am using a mug for dipping. I know you guys always want me to use a larger vessel. Hey, that doesn't work for me. The mug is always going to be where I'm at. So I dipped that last cake pop, and then we're getting ready to freeze them. So half of the order I froze 250 cake pops, and then I'm making fresh the other 250 just to help me during the week, just kind of break these up. And I did only make these a week in advance, so that way they would be really fresh once I took them out of the freezer. I'm lining everything up. If you have questions about my freezing process, I have another video, but about 88 cake pops can fit in one of these big tubs. So I'm just packing all the cake pops in there, getting them right into the deep freezer. Here's the additional 125. So you saw 250 white cake pops going into the freezer. Now we're moving on to the 250 blue cake pops. These are also going to be vanilla. So again, we're going to have 2 baking days for these 250 pops. Here I am making more vanilla cake. Again, 4 large cakes into the oven, into the mixer. Then I'm molding them, doing the whole process again. So this was very, very repetitive, but I promise soon it's going to get interesting because we got to dye this chocolate blue at least. The Banks colors that I'm working with are white and blue. This is how they asked me to decorate them, so I'm just doing what the customer wanted. Now I'm using Royal as the color mill color. I have a very big bottle of it. I did this 4 times to achieve this beautiful blue color that you're seeing here. This matches the Banks colors perfectly, so I was really happy. I'm dipping 125 of these on up. Again, just doing the process all over again. And then this time though, I'm able to add the decoration since these weren't frozen, so I added on white drizzle lines, white sprinkle balls, and then at the end, I had to package each and every one up so that way I could get a move on to make the other 125 blue pops that you see here. So now that we're done with the blue, I had to go get the whites out of the freezer. So here's what the tub looks like out of the freezer. Remove the cardboard, remove the parchment paper. You can see that just soaked up all the moisture. I let these sit out at room temperature for about 15 hours before I even opened that lid up. That made sure there was no cracking, no condensation. So anyway, I'm laying all the white pops out. I did this again 125 at a time. I added blue drizzle, no sprinkles for this one. And then here you can see all 500 cake pops all laid out on my counter. I couldn't even fit them all. I was so proud. And then they wanted these boxed up 25 each. So that's what I did next. And let me tell you, friends, this was such a fun order. I love corporate orders, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Bye now.
Many commented on how satisfying it was to watch her process, and others said they were inspired by her dedication. It painted the perfect picture of what it means to be a self-made small business owner in the food space. Diligent, talented, and authentic. But little did viewers know, a twist was coming, and it was about to challenge their entire perception of her work. But then, plot twist, Katie dropped a video that caught her audience off guard. In it, she shared something that flipped the whole narrative on its head. She doesn't bake her cakes from scratch. Instead, she uses boxed cake mix. That revelation shifted everything. What had been viewed as a wholesome, hardworking solo baker story suddenly sparked a wave of confusion and backlash. Some of her followers felt misled. They had assumed, based on how detailed and hands-on her videos appeared, that she was making her cake pops entirely from raw ingredients. After all, when someone presents themselves as a professional baker, most people imagine flour-dusted counters, stern mixes, running, and ingredients measured out by hand.
A lot of people lose their shit when they see I use box cake for my cake pop business, so let's get into it. I needed to make an extra large funfetti cake. The best thing about box cake mix is I don't have to measure out any of the ingredients. I don't need the flour, sugar, baking powder. It's all in the box. So we used one cake mix, and then we used a cup and a little bit extra of another cake mix. So we're trying to make that extra large funfetti cake. Then instead of 3 eggs, I used 4. Instead of a third of a cup of oil, I used a half of a cup and maybe a little bit extra, just so everything is nice and big and fluffy and moist. Then we're going to add in a cup of water and probably about a fourth extra, and then we're always going to add in our vanilla. For the purposes of this video, we're just following the instructions on the back of the box. Of course, you can add milk, sour cream, but for you beginners, I just want you guys to be able to do this yourself. So we're going to mix it up by hand. That's my preference, but you do you. And another thing I'd like to note is it would be so expensive if I bought all of these ingredients myself. I make about 200 to 500 or so cake pops a week, depending on the week. So it's just so much easier to pull out these boxes. I get them in bulk for about 79 to 89 cents. Anyway, we're always going to use pan baking spray. We're going to get our cake into our pan, and then look at that big ass funfetti cake. You can see how tall it is. You can see how it baked up so nice. It doesn't matter that the bottom is brown. It's all going to mix up, and it's going to have that wonderful flavor. And you cannot tell me different. Box cake mix has wonderful flavor, especially if you're just going to be mashing it up, mixing it up, and putting it into a cake pop mold. So you can see the wonderful dough. It came out amazing. 2 to 3 minutes on low. I had to speed up the video, but it was on low. And then once it comes to room temperature, we add in those sprinkles, and look at how beautiful that cake pop dough is. There's so much of it. This will make about 35 of my traditional cake pops, but let me know if you guys have any questions still, and let me know what you want to see next. All right, bye friends.
To them, boxed cake mix felt like a shortcut, a cheat code, and in their minds, it challenged the very definition of what it means to be a baker. In her response, Katie remained calm and transparent. She explained that using cake mix wasn't a secret or a trick, it was a choice, a practical one. She broke it down clearly. Boxed mix saves her valuable time, cuts down on ingredient costs, and simplifies production when she's making large batches like the 500 cake pops in her recent order. One box, she said, costs between 79 to 89 cents and produces around 35 cake pops. Doing the math, she revealed she used about 15 boxes for the full order, meaning she spent just $15 total on the cake portion of a $1,900 job. The numbers made sense for her business model, especially since she's doing everything else herself: baking, decorating, packaging, filming, editing, and customer service. So, still, the confession opened the door to a much bigger debate. Is using cake mix disqualifying for someone calling themselves a baker, or is it just smart business? People were quick to comment. The top comment, which gained thousands of likes, was, "So you're not a baker, you're a decorator? Okie dokie." That one-liner captured the frustration of a large group of viewers who felt deceived. It wasn't just sarcasm, it was a reflection of how many people suddenly saw her work in a different light. Katie did not stay silent. She clapped back in another video of her own, standing in her kitchen, speaking directly to the camera with a confident but collected tone. She asked a simple but powerful question: does using boxed cake mix mean someone isn't a real baker? Does the title baker only belong to those who measure flour, sugar, and baking soda from scratch? Or can it also belong to people like her who still bake, still decorate, still run their own business, and simply choose convenience for efficiency?
I'm a cake pop baker that uses box cake mix, and people love to shit on me for it, so let's settle the debate. Do you only define someone as a baker if they pre-measure out all of their ingredients and buy it separately? Let's use me as an example. I make about 200 to 500 cake pops per week. It's just me in here. I crank out a lot. Box cake mix is so easy to me. I know how much I need. I can doctor it up. I use a box and a half at a time. I make big ass cakes, and I add all kinds of things to make the flavor even better. And you know what? I mashed it all up in the mixer like you see here. So I don't know why I would be buying everything separately, measuring it out. Sounds like a lot of work, a lot of mess. I don't have time for that. And to be frank, I don't think the flavor would be much better if I made the cake from scratch versus using a box cake mix and doctoring it up. So I want to know what you guys think, because all the commercial bakers that I know use box cake mix. A lot of the small bakers I know use box cake mix. But you know what? TikTok is a very interesting place. Everybody does different things. I know we all different opinions, and I want to respect them all. But I also deserve to be respected too, because as you can see, he's right. I am a damn fine decorator, but I'm also a baker too. I'm in my kitchen week after week, year after year, cranking these bad boys out for you guys. And I'm so grateful for the love and the respect from most of you. But let me know what you think. I truly want to know. Be respectful, but I want to know. Okay.
Katie explained that she doesn't just pour mix into a bowl or go. She doesn't just pour mix into a bowl and go. She customizes each batch, adding her own ingredients and flavoring tweaks to elevate the boxed base. She pointed out that plenty of commercial bakers use shortcuts like cake mix because it helps manage time and consistency, especially for big orders. Why they hate? She asked genuinely. Why is using boxed mix such a deal breaker when the end result still makes people happy? Her response was fair, thoughtful, but still, not everyone was convinced. Many critics doubled down. They compared her to someone microwaving instant ramen and calling themselves a chef. Harsh, yes, but it's social media. People can be brutal. What people really seemed upset about was expectation. When you buy from a local baker, there is an assumption that what you're paying for is handcrafted, original work, start to finish, not something that starts with a $0.89 meat from the grocery store. That disconnect between what viewers believed and what they discovered made the entire situation feel, to some, like a bait and switch. It wasn't about the cake mix itself, it was about what the cake mix represented, a break in trust. But here's the thing, Katie never hid the fact that she used cake mix. She even mentioned it in earlier videos. So was it really betrayal, or were people just assuming? Let's break it down. Cake mix is just a pre-mixed ingredients. It saves time and effort, and if you add your own touches, flavors, and creativity, does it still count as cheating? Maybe not, especially for small business owners making bulk orders alone. And it's not like she lied. She told people up front. So maybe this drama isn't about cake mix at all. Maybe it's about perception. People want to believe they're supporting artisanal, handcrafted work. But in reality, many businesses use shortcuts. As long as the product tastes good, does it matter? In the end, Katie was transparent. Her customers knew what they were paying for, and they kept coming back. That says a lot. Both of these cakes dramas have one thing in common. Whether it's copying recipes without credit or using shortcuts in baking, people care about honesty. Brooke's situation is about ownership and giving credit where it's due. Katie is about managing expectations and being upfront about how things are made. So, what do you think? Does it matter if a baker uses cake mix? Should cookbook authors always credit their sources? And where do we draw the line between inspiration and copying? Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe for more breakdowns of the internet's messiest stories.